Hi guys, welcome back to Bar Exam. It's your girl Allie Rayner, and I'm here with my amazing Bar Exam crew. Say hello to Mr. Eric G and Mr. Marcus TV.
Yo,
What
yo.
up? I hope everybody is feeling good today. Welcome back to another episode. So let's get right into it. This week, coming before the bar, are our top best white rappers. So basically, each host has chosen famous white rappers. We're going to share them with the group, and then together we're going to rank them from worst to best. So, all right, fellas, do you want to get right into it? Does anybody want to start off with their white rapper pick?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so the first person that I thought of to put on this list who would easily be in my top 5 white rappers is Paul Wall. He was the first person I thought of immediately. I think Paul Wall is probably one of the best white rappers, period, for a number of reasons. I think that he came up in Houston at a time when the Houston scene was really on fire, and he kind of made his way and stuck out amongst the pack while everyone was kind of getting on around the same time. So that's number one. I think number two, I think his debut album is one of those albums that's looked at as like a cult classic. Like if you paid attention to that album and actually listened to it back in the day, you would probably look at that as a cult classic because of just how good the music is on it, how he again putting out material alongside his peers, but his being one of the better albums. And him having a Kanye beat, one of the better Kanye beats around that time, and being on a song with Kanye when Kanye was still in his peak, and for Paul Wall to be able to keep up, I think that was like a major accomplishment to kind of show that he was going to be around for quite a long period of time. So my number one pick was Paul Wall, just because of the early impact that he made and how long of a longevity he's been able to sustain throughout his entire career. So yeah, I picked Paul Wall as my go-to for number one.
I love that. I love what Paul Wall represents because he is very much South, and I think that he changes he changed people's perception of what a rapper from the South can look like and sound like and what white people can end up sounding like. Like his accent is so thick and not probably the norm for a lot of people, but he still was authentic to himself. I think that was the thing that kind of was different about him, was that people actually still respected him, whereas other people who probably tried to do what he did, I don't think they would have been nearly as respected. A lot of times, you see it from back then, you were called what was it called? Like a wigga or something like that, you were basically seen as you were wearing a costume. So I feel like Paul Wall was one of those rappers who I don't feel like he got all that much hate, in that regards, and I think it makes sense. Marcus, how did you feel about Paul Wall?
Well, that's why that was kind of my hesitation. That's why I didn't want to go. That's why I didn't want to go first, because I knew Eric was going to use Paul Wall, and Paul Wall is, after Eminem, number one on the list. I don't think you can argue Paul Wall's status. I think Paul Wall won. I'll say this: I can put. This is the only argument that I can put Paul Wall possibly in a grade over Eminem, in saying that Paul Wall's music has aged better than Eminem's. Because Eminem is still rapping in the same cadence and the same style, and it's just different. But Paul Wall, I mean, you're not going to put Paul Wall above him in any other category ever, other than the age, what music has aged that I can still listen to Like I can listen to a Paul Wall album, the first cult classic album today, and still get that same feel. Whereas I'm not really angry like when I first listened to the Marshall Mathers AP. Like I was in a different different space as a kid. Like it takes you to a different time a little bit. So
Yeah.
I think his music has aged well. I think he's also as relevant as he was then as he is now. You know, I don't think he ever had a dip, you know, where he just kind of faded away and then like, oh yeah, Paul Wall. Like I don't think he ever had that where, you know, M kind of did. So to me, Paul Wall is above Eminem.
Wow.
Just in that, like, just, I mean, because you grew up with Eminem, like, still tipping on Fofos, the Nelly Grills, like, his verse on Grills is the smoothest in and out verse that a white boy put on a hip hop track almost ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then because it was like, who is this? It's your boy Paul Wall. Like, I mean, we rapped that more than Nelly's version. So
I will
he's
smooth, but I feel like a lot of people would argue with you about the ranking just because when it comes to like actual monthly streamers or even streams overall, like M's old shit and his new shit is gonna be Paul Wall's no matter like Paul Wall's stuff no matter what, you know, like I don't think it's
numbers wise it doesn't work out. It's more preference wise. My preference. If I have to drive from St. Louis anywhere and it's a choice between Eminem and Paul Wall, my preference is Paul Wall.
Okay.
It has nothing to do.
It's fair because subjective to you. Whereas like, you know, I think that we have to also include the majority is that if we're gonna go up against like, you know, numbers wise or like what the popular vote is gonna be, it's more than likely gonna be Eminem versus Paul Wall, you know. But I think we also decided to do this list and we are gonna try our best to leave Eminem off of it just because I feel like isn't that kind of like the obvious answer a lot of times with this list. So I think we tried our best to kind of like leave him off the list, but I think it's one of those things where it's like it's undeniable how much of an impact Eminem has had over the years, you know. So I think a lot of people would argue with you, Marcus. But anyway,
that's why he's the people's champ too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Marcus, how about you give us one of your picks then?
So this is another preference pick. Numbers do not back it up. This is a personal preference. This is the only, you know, we're gonna stay Southern. I'm gonna go with Lil White, which is, you know, part of the 3-6 Mafia camp. At the time when Lil White came out, you know, it was we're gonna say early 2000, 2005, 2001. It was Lil White, Bubba Sparks, Eminem. That was your white rapper list then. And Lil White had a fan base. You know, Lil White, I mean, if you were a 3-6 Mafia fan and you kept up with 3-6 Mafia, and then first of all, for them to introduce and bring somebody like Lil White on, you were already like, it's a gimmick, it's a joke, is this? And then when you realized he had bars and was doing the same thing, and you was like, oh shit, this dude can rap. Lil White was he had a run. I'm not gonna, because after when he disappeared, he's gone now. Like it's not you had to be a fan of it then and be in it when it happened, because going back on it, I mean, it just doesn't hit the same. But his run was top tier for me when he was in the scene and he was up there. He was arguably top 5.
Wow. I mean,
and he's not on anybody else's list either.
I was going to say, I love having this conversation because I learn something new all the time with you guys. And honestly, I had never heard of Lil White before. And I'm really surprised that he was with 3-6 Mafia. Like, that is the big shock to me, because it's just like what they're known for, you know, and they're just kind of like legends in their own right. So I'm really, really shocked that they had a white member. So I gotta go deep and find some of that music out there because I've never heard of him. I don't think I've ever seen him on anybody's list.
I think Lil White was the first rapper to like mention like Oxy. Like it wasn't even like a known thing. It was like what? It was like I'm on Oxy, like, and then like I don't even people wasn't even talking about being on Oxy. Like that hadn't entered our. It was liquor, weed, coke, crack. Oxy and pills weren't in trap at the time.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if rappers like Lil Peep or like not Lil Peep, Lil Pump. I wonder if he kind of gets his influences from Lil White just because of like the tattoos, the name, the like the content of his lyrics, stuff like that.
I can see it. I can definitely see it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Lil Peep was trash though.
Was he? I mean, I was thinking of Lil Pump. I was thinking of Lil Peep just because we went through the list, but I'm thinking more of Lil Pump.
Both of them was trash.
I was gonna say who was also trash in his own.
Because when they both was from Florida, right?
I don't think Lil Pump is white though. I think he's like Mexican or something like that.
I was gonna say the only reason he's not on the list is because he's Hispanic.
Yeah, I think he's like or I don't know. Yeah, but I know he's not. I know he's not white though.
Yeah, But okay, so interesting pick, Marcus. I'll have to check up on that guy later on Lil White. All right, so for my pick, I chose Jack Harlow. I chose him because he kind of like broke out of nowhere in like 2020 because of TikTok, of course. I mean, a lot of these new rappers and artists are breaking on TikTok. And so he got like a smash hit with the song What's Poppin'. I think that he got a lot of notoriety because of the song, and then his career kind of just took off when he got backed by rappers like Drake, and then he jumped on other people's features and stuff. And so people kind of took him a lot more serious because of the co-sign from Drake. He also hit #2 on Billboard with that song. He even received a Grammy nomination for it. And I think that in general, he's gotten a lot of hate from hip hop legends and just people who, hip hop fans. But I feel like his success, I don't think his success is completely from just being white. I think he popped off from that song going viral, and then him being white just so happened to help his career and made him kind of stay around a little bit longer. And we'll see what happens with him. I think like lyrically, he's pretty dope. He's different. And I think that he really, really works because he's able to relate, or I feel like the suburban white kid is able to relate to him and be like, okay, like I see myself in that rapper. So I think that he had to kind of make this list, especially because he's kind of the newer act, but he's gotten a lot of attention and a little bit of hate as well. How do you guys feel about this pick?
Horrible. Horrible.
Why?
Jack Harlow, because and it has nothing to do with his music. He ruined one of the best movies of my childhood when he did this White Man Can't Jump acting debut. Like Woody Harrelson would be disappointed. Like, bro, that just wasn't it. It was like, what the fuck, man? Like it was bad. It was not good. And
I
then
didn't watch it, but I saw so many reviews that were saying like it wasn't worth it, and I knew it wasn't. I think that something like that's like a classic really shouldn't be touched unless it's going to be somebody who is like an actual actor. I think that's where they kind of fuck.
This is going to sound so crazy. I would have preferred they did the remake and had Drake as the Jack Harlow character and somebody else. At least, like I promise, I wouldn't even be mad at that. I'd have been like, that he could have really pulled it off or something. Like you cannot do that, and and then the obvious too. Is he responsible for Thugger being in jail at the moment?
What?
That
I don't know why everyone threw him in on that. Like, I think that they mentioned, like, one of the prosecutors mentioned him one time, and like he never even got called, nothing. So I don't know why people.
he got the complexion for protection.
Oh, is that right? Okay, so maybe
So
it was a white which was also
everybody else who done did a feature with fucking YSL and Gunna and everybody else. Lil Baby was even at one time under the same scrutiny and eyes. But you know, Jack Harlow name is what's that what's that shit in spy movies? Like when you get a piece of paper and it got the Sharpie. Oh, what's the
what, the get out of free jail card?
No, it's like when you look at it and then you can't see the name redacted. Yeah, it's a redacted. Yeah, Jack Harlow is redacted. So you don't even if you get the paperwork, you don't even know if it's his name or there. You don't know what it is. You just got black lines.
Oh my goodness. Well, besides conspiracy theories in movies, how do you feel about his music?
I mean, Pressure was good. I mean, it was a cool little song. Right. That's only because I used it for my daughter's prom reel. Like it was like his music is not bad. It's not great. It's not bad, but it's you know it's a good mainstream. He does have numbers. I think he speaks to a new audience of hip hop, like you said. You know, that suburban kid. You know who's not necessarily in the trenches, but not necessarily, you know, in the 1% either. You know, it's that middle gap, and he can speak to that. You know, and he's also from Kentucky. I mean, how many rappers do we even know from Kentucky? So I mean, it's not like Kentucky's not like a rapper haven, you know. So for him to make it out of Kentucky and still go mainstream and still kind of rep Kentucky, I always thought was cool too, because you know he wasn't rapping about fucking horses and shit in the derby. So
I mean, while you're mentioning it though, I think it's also cool to note that he did a song with Lil Nas X, who's done songs about horses and shit. But like it actually was different because he was like the first type of rapper. Well, yeah, I guess like the first mainstream rapper to decide to hop on a song with Lil Nas X, and it was kind of like it's called Industry Baby, and it kind of was like, I don't know, playing along with those lines of like, you know, Lil Nas X being gay, whereas like Jack Harlow is straight, but he's still like jumping on this song. And I don't know, I feel like it was different, and a lot of people try to give him some shit about it, but he still kind of like pushed through, and I thought it was cool and different for hip hop, you know. So I think that's what he also does, is that he kind of thinks a little bit different from like the mainstream hip hop artists. So, you know, that was just something that I had to throw in there. But I think Eric, you are up next with your pick.
All right. So for my next pick, I got Action Bronson. As far as Action Bronson, I think he's another guy that in my opinion is in a top 5 list as far as white rappers go. I think when he first came out, it was a very interesting time for him because immediately he got those comparisons to Ghostface Killah because of the way that he sounds, just his cadence, even the delivery. A lot of Ghostface Killah comparisons. I'm pretty sure they had a few back and forths about that, like later on, like after people like kept asking Action about it. But I think throughout all that and throughout everything that he's been through in his career, I think he's one of those guys who has just stayed consistent throughout pretty much everything that he does music wise. I think he was one of the first people that started teaming up with Harry Fraud back in like the early 2010s, where I like really started to take notice to him on projects like Rare Chandeliers, throughout his whole Blue Chips mixtape series. Like he just made sure that like he stayed consistent and improved every single project, and that was just one thing I really appreciated about him. I enjoy the abstract topics that he raps about, because he kind of goes all over the place with it. He's one of those guys that is also like a content creator in his own right, like having that food show, Fuck That's Delicious. He had his own spin-off of like the Alien National Geographic show and everything like that. So he's just done a lot of things to maintain his relevancy. But the number one thing that I don't think should be lost on anything else that he's done is that the music is always top notch with him. I don't think he's not one of those guys that wastes any verses that he does. And again, it's been this way pretty much since the first time that I ever heard him. So yeah, if there was if we're ranking this from the top to the bottom, Action is definitely in my top 5 so far.
Okay. And I think it's interesting that you say that, because he ended up being on a lot of people's lists. Like when I was researching this topic, I wanted to see like what other people thought, and he came up a lot, but I was really mainly surprised because he isn't that like mainstream artist. Because honestly, I've never heard of him. For him to be on so many people's lists, and especially so high up, I'm just surprised that we haven't heard him on the radio, you know, at least from where I'm from in Cleveland or in LA. Do you like, would you say it's because of like his style, or like why is it that we haven't, like a lot of people haven't heard about him, if you haven't at this point?
I think it's a combination of two things. Part of it is his style. I think he doesn't really make radio records like that. The one radio song that he had was a song that he had with Chance the Rapper. I can't even tell you the name of it right now. But that was like one of the only tracks that he made specifically for like a radio sound. Other than that, like everything else that he pretty much puts out is like album quality material, like playing it straight front to back, no skips type thing. The second thing is, I think because he's from New York, I think with radio play, I think unless you're a certain type of artist, you don't really get a lot of play on the radio. That's just a thing that I've noticed personally. You don't really get a lot of radio spins unless you're a certain type of New York artist.
Yeah.
Like if you're a 50 Cent, if you're a Pop Smoke type, if you're a Polo G type, like people like that, then you'll get radio play.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think he also looks super different from any of the New York rappers. Like honestly, when I
he's big, he's white, like he's
you
know what I mean? Like he's not the typical type of radio artist. You know what I'm saying?
Especially like white rapper, you know? So I think that's another thing, is that maybe he's not as like commercial as people would want him to be. He kind of reminds me a little bit like of Post Malone, if Post like didn't go like so viral, you know what I mean? Like I think that Post could have easily ended up looking like this guy. So I think that's really interesting. I gotta check him out as well. Like a lot of people put him on the list, but I'm surprised, like you said, he hasn't had a ton of radio hits. That song you were talking about is called Baby Blue, though. I looked that up.
Right.
Kind of wonder if it was because Chance the Rapper is on it, and maybe that one was just, you know, made to kind of fit Chance a little bit more. Who knows? But I like the pick, because he's someone that I'm being introduced to, you know, and maybe a lot of people who are watching this might be a new fan of him as well. Who knows? Marcus, have you heard of him before?
Yeah, I think he's all right. He's your favorite rapper's favorite white rapper. You know, that's a lot, you know, how you can put him on a lot of these lists. He's also whatever number on list, if you have a top 5, a top 10 of rapper, white rapper that you want to put him on, he's always, I feel like, the gatekeeper of your bottom pick. Because like when Eric said, he has no skips, he has great bars, and he doesn't waste, you know, anything. Like, and he, you know, he just kind of keeps building on his success. And for him to be mainstream, he's kind of low key. You know, he's he's mainstream, but he's not always in your face. You know, if you know who he is, you know it's he. You can equally say it's people who know him not from rap, from his other endeavors. Just you know, the best way I can put it is if Marshawn Lynch never played football, but you saw Marshawn Lynch everywhere else, and then you're a fan of Beast Mode, but you had no idea he was a running back. Like, that's the best analogy that I can kind of like think. Like, you're like, oh yeah, he was eating Skittles, he was doing this, acting crazy. Like, you know, you saw Mark like doing all of these crazy, but when Marshawn played football, shit, dude was quiet. Dude had a quiet career.
Yeah.
I mean, if you weren't in it, and that's the same way I feel about Action Bronson, you know, he's had a quiet career, but he's made strides, and I think he's a gatekeeper position. Definitely.
Really? Wow. Okay. Yeah, I guess he's somebody to like definitely,
because it's quality. It's quality over quantity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, like, I mean, I guess it doesn't always mean that you're going to get the most amazing streams, right? You're not going to go viral, but it doesn't mean that you don't have quality content. So yeah, I think somebody, say it again.
Our fans, like I think when you have a organic quality fan base, you're able to do much more. You know, he doesn't have like the everyday fan. He has a fan that's going to support, that's going to buy merch, that, you know, he has the type of fan base that can support him. Yeah,
that's what it sounds like for sure. Well, all right, I'm definitely going to look into him. All right, so next on the list, who's next? Is it me or is it Marcus? I think it's Marcus, actually.
I think Marcus is next.
I'm gonna go throwback. Throwback for someone who's on the list, but we forget about on the list because we looked at it as a joke. And that's Weird Al Yankovic.
Yes, I
like, it's a joke. It's I mean, come on, it's not supposed to be on the list. It's not. Right. He's and one also, we really don't classify him as a rapper. Like, that's you know, I would not sit there and say he had rap shows, but clearly, Amish Paradise, which was the parody of Gangsta's Paradise from Coolio, is bar wise top tier. Forget the comp. And how many times have we heard something in a song, true or untrue, that's our version of it? We didn't know anything about Amish people. We had Amish wasn't even on the radar in hip hop, I didn't know Amish people, Amish culture. That was my introduction. Was Weird Al was that silly ass song. But he also made other parodies and other things that were oh damn, I can't even think of the year it came out though, but it was culturally on point. Like, it wasn't, he didn't make fun of Amish people to where it was like cancel culture or they're offended over it. You know, it wasn't, it was like more of an authentic representation. You know, like if an Amish rapper was to make another song, or if Coolio never made the song, right? Let's just say there is no Coolio and you just got Amish Paradise. How would you not know that shit? This is what it's like being on the phone. I mean, I don't know how the fuck you would record it because they don't have no electricity and shit. But like, that's Weird Al, and I mean, To Be White was like on that list, and it's so good. It's kind of it's never been repeated. There, you know, we're gonna have a show later on, you know, talking about who's the new. No, who else is doing parody raps?
Right,
or has even tried.
Right. And honestly, I will say Weird Al is one of those people who somehow like broke the system, broke the formula, and was able to actually have a career off of just solely making parodies from other people's shit. He also made White and Dirty from Millionaires, Ride and Dirty. But I think it's kind of unfair for you to put him on the list, Marcus, because he has like one-offs. I don't consider him a rapper. I don't even know if he considers himself a rapper, because he really is just doing parodies. And I think it just so happens that these songs happen to be rap songs, because he's done 1,000 other parodies of other songs that are not rap at all, you know? So I think it's a little unfair of you to put him on the list.
Good counter.
Fair. I'll take that. I'll take that. Y'all put people on the list who I didn't necessarily agree with.
Okay.
So I was just gonna be like,
listen.
I was
Who
just
said
gonna
I
be
put
more
them
of
on the
a.
list because I like? Who said I put some of these guys on the list because I like them?
Right.
We'll get to them.
I wouldn't put nobody on the list who I didn't like. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go real obscure, like, and then I think the next person that I wanted to, I don't even want to say honorably mention, but I think he's gonna come up later on.
Okay.
Is on the list. I believe one of you already have him as your picks. I'm gonna say that for later, but yeah, I think you'll see where it kind of comes down to.
Okay, yeah, I'm really interested to see how this turns out. But okay, Marcus, thank you for your pick. All right, so for my next pick, I decided to choose Mac Miller, the Pittsburgh rapper. So
see, oh my God, that's why I didn't say him. I swear that's what I was literally.
That's what you were gonna say.
I was gonna say that's who I was like. I think Mac Miller's coming. I knew it.
He has to be on the list. I couldn't do this list without mentioning Mac Miller. Basically, he broke out around 2005, or actually, maybe, I think it was 2005, maybe a little bit earlier than that, with like mixtapes like Kid or KIDS Kids, and Best Day Ever. With Kids, he ended up going crazy on the Billboard 200 list. I think he was like one of the first independent albums to do well on there. He also got 500 million streams from the song The Spins that was on Kids. It was like one of those songs that he had sampled Empire of the Sun. And so it was kind of cool because it was like this pop song that he decided to rap on top of and make kind of like this fun type of song. It went well, obviously, because he got 500 million streams, he got on Billboard, but it also kind of hindered him because people considered him like this frat boy, frat party type of rapper. But he ended up kind of changing it up a little bit and changing people's minds because he also liked to play around with jazz influences, instruments, and he just kind of had like this funky kind of soul vibe about him, which was a little bit surprising from a white rapper. In general, though, I feel like he also contributed to rap in different ways, not just from his music, because a lot of his songs also did amazing later on in his career. For example, he dropped Swimming. The album Swimming did really, really well because of the same things that I said before. It was like funky, it was different. It had like this kind of like R&B kind of like references or like soul. But I think that he also was a big contributor to hip hop because he put on a lot of these like independent or at the time these underground artists like Chance the Rapper and Vic Mensa, because he gave them like opening spots for his shows. And it was different because a lot of times those people weren't getting a shot and he gave them a chance. So I think that it's also important to mention that he helped out other artists as well. And he didn't just like take away from the culture being a white rapper. But I will
That's important.
Yeah, I think it's huge. And I think that a lot of people don't mention that when they talk about him. In general, though, he had a successful career. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2018. I think that was the same year he also dropped Swimming. But then they ended up dropping Circles later. I want to say I think 2020, they dropped Circles, the album of like all the songs that he didn't end up like fully finishing or like, get to release on his own. So they dropped it posthumously. In general, though, even with his passing, he still gets amazing streams. He has like 24.1 million monthly listeners on Spotify alone. So, I think that he gets overshadowed a lot when they talk about like when they make these lists. But I think because he's not here with us, but I think that he honestly has made a huge impact on hip hop. And he deserves to be on the list, in my opinion. And I think that it's cool that he's like, he's not the typical rapper. Not just that he's white, or but because his sound is different. But what do you guys think? I know I rambled a lot, my bad. But what do you guys feel about Mac Miller?
Oh man, what I don't remember who Marcus said it about earlier. Your favorite rapper's favorite white rapper. This is who I think it is about in Mac Miller's case, because to me, if there's anybody I would put right below M in terms of talent as far as white rappers go, Mac is right below him. He's right there.
Yeah.
Mac has a few rap projects that if you've never heard them, that will give you that feeling. The 2 mixtapes, one of them Macadelic, one of them Faces, and then his second album, Watching Movies with the Sound Off. Fantastic projects. Mac has always been one of those guys that even from early on in his career, when he was kind of on like the frat boy type of like sound, to elevating to like the neo soul type of style that he was taking on shortly before his passing, he was always kind of doing kind of things that were a little different. And that is one of the reasons why I always was a huge Mac Miller fan, from pretty much the first time that I heard him on the Kids mixtape, all the way up until Swimming in Circles. So yeah, Mac is for sure, he definitely was taken from us way too soon. I think he had a lot more in the chamber that he was gonna gear up for. But yeah, I still, even with everything that he left with us, it was enough for me to confidently say that he's, as far as the talent level goes, he's right below him.
Hi guys, thanks for watching part 1 of our white rappers list. Be sure to see our next episode, part 2, next week for the rest of the list and see how we ended up ranking them. See you next time.